Yeah, so thanks for pointing us towards this research on scoring rubrics. Really interesting stuff you sent over. For this deep dive, we're going to zero in on one specific study. We want to get a clear picture of what the science says about how these rubrics actually impact learning.
Hmm.
And this is for students all the way from kindergarten right up through university level.
Yeah.
Think of this as like your shortcut to the main findings.
Exactly. And the one you picked out, it's a meta-analysis published pretty recently, actually, July 2024 in Educational Psychology Review.
Right, a meta-analysis. So that means it's pulling together lots of different studies.
Precisely. It synthesizes the findings from multiple primary studies to give us a much bigger, more reliable picture than just one experiment could.
Okay. And this one looked at how many?
This one crunched the numbers from 14 different primary studies.
14. Okay.
And across those studies, we're talking about data from 2,793 students in total.
Wow. Okay, so that's a pretty decent amount of evidence then.
It really is.
So our mission here is to figure out what this tells us about how rubrics affect. Well, two really key things for learning: self-efficacy and self-regulation. And just quickly, for you listening, self-efficacy, that's basically your belief, right? Your confidence that you can actually do the learning tasks and succeed.
Mm-hmm. It's that I can do this feeling.
Yeah.
And self-regulation, that's more about how you manage your own learning process, setting goals, planning things out, monitoring how you're doing.
Adjusting your approach if needed.
Exactly. Being strategic about how you learn. It's about being an active driver, not just a passenger.
Okay, got it. So with those two ideas in mind, what was the big headline finding from this meta-analysis? You mentioned it kind of jumped out.
Yeah, the big takeaway was that they found a statistically significant moderate to large positive effect of using scoring rubrics on both self-efficacy and self-regulation.
Moderate to large positive effect. Okay, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Like rubrics are generally helpful.
It certainly sounds encouraging, yeah. When you look at the numbers for self-efficacy, they calculated this statistic called Hedges G. It came out at 0.39.
Okay, 0.39. And in like research terms, is that good?
It's generally considered a moderate positive effect. It suggests a noticeable boost in students' confidence in their learning when rubrics are in the picture, a meaningful impact.
And what about for self-regulation, that ability to manage your learning?
That was even stronger. The Hedges G there was 1.0.
The zero. Zero.
Yeah. That indicates a really substantial positive relationship between using rubrics and students being able to manage their learning effectively.
So the overall message seems pretty clear then. Rubrics, generally speaking, seem to be a positive thing for these aspects of learning.
That's the main thrust of it, yes. A good sign for using rubrics in education.
But I'm sensing a but coming. Research is rarely that simple. Right?
Yeah, right. It's never quite that straightforward. The study also pointed out there was large within and between study variability in those effect sizes.
Okay. Large variability. Let's unpack that. So the average effect is positive, but it's not the same everywhere.
Exactly. When you look inside those 14 individual studies, the results were kind of all over the map.
How wide a range are we talking?
Well, for self-efficacy, the Hedges G values went from minus 0.06, so slightly negative,
Oh.
all the way up to positive 2.47, which is very large.
Okay, wow. Minus 0.06 to plus 2.47. That's a huge spread.
And for self-regulation, it was even wider, from minus 1.17.
Oh, negative.
Yeah, quite negative in some cases,
Yeah.
out to a really big positive 3.30.
Gosh. So, okay, average is good, but in some specific classrooms or studies, rubrics might have basically no effect, or maybe even a negative one, while in others, they're having this massive positive impact.
Precisely. And that variability is really important.
Yeah.
It tells us that just saying use rubrics isn't the whole story.
Right. It means how they're used, or maybe what kind of rubric, or the context. Something else is going on that changes the outcome.
Exactly. It strongly suggests other factors are influencing how effective these rubrics actually are for boosting confidence and self-management.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what those factors are.
Which naturally is what the researchers looked into next, right? These potential moderators, factors that might explain that variation.
They tested a few things.
And interestingly, some things you might think would make a big difference apparently didn't, based on this analysis.
Yeah, some potentially surprising non-findings there.
Let's start with the students' level of education. You said this covered K through 16. Did it matter if it was like elementary school kids versus university students?
Well, according to this meta-analysis, no. The level of education didn't significantly change the overall positive effect of the rubrics on either self-efficacy or self-regulation.
Huh. That's quite interesting. So rubrics can be helpful for, fostering these skills, whether you're 8 or 20.
That's what this data suggests. The benefits seem to apply across different age groups and academic stages. You might intuitively think they'd work differently, but
But the overall statistical effect wasn't significantly different. Okay. That suggests broad applicability, maybe. The core idea of clear expectations works widely.
could be. It's a fascinating point.
Okay, what about feedback? Giving feedback using the rubric. Surely that helps.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Feels like a natural pairing. Feedback structured by a rubric seems like it would enhance the effect.
Yeah.
But again, this meta-analysis didn't find that providing feedback significantly moderated the effect.
Really? So just using the rubric alone had a similar statistical effect on self-efficacy and self-regulation as using the rubric plus giving feedback based on it.
That's what this specific analysis indicated, yeah.
Yeah.
No significant difference in the effect size based on whether feedback was provided or not.
That feels counterintuitive. What could be going on there?
Well, it raises questions, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Maybe it's not whether feedback is given, but the kind of feedback or the quality.
Right, like really specific, actionable feedback versus just a grade or a generic comment.
Exactly. Or maybe the rubric itself, by laying out the criteria so clearly, acts as a form of feedback. It guides the student even before they get formal comments back.
Ah, okay. Like inherent feedback built into the structure. That makes some sense.
It forces us to think a bit more deeply about what feedback means in this whole process.
Okay, one more factor they looked at, instruction. Did it matter if teachers actually, taught students how to use the rubric?
Similar story here. The analysis didn't find a significant moderating effect based on whether students got explicit instruction on using the rubric or not.
So just handing it out versus carefully explaining how to interpret and use it didn't significantly change the impact on self-efficacy or self-regulation.
According to this synthesis of studies, no significant moderation was found.
Again, a bit surprising. You'd assume teaching students how to use the tool would make the tool more effective.
You would. It could be that many rubrics are intuitive enough, or perhaps the design quality of the rubric itself matters more than direct instruction on its use.
Or maybe the instruction methods varied wildly across the studies they looked at.
That's also possible. But the key point is, these factors we often assume are crucial: feedback, instruction, even student age, didn't emerge as significant moderators of the overall positive effect in this particular meta-analysis.
Which brings us back to that big variability you mentioned earlier.
Exactly.
If these factors don't explain the wide range of results, it really underlines what the researchers themselves said, right? That this variability raises questions about best practices for rubric development and use.
Absolutely. We know they can work, often quite well on average, but the how and why of making them most effective in every situation, that's still less clear.
It's like the details of implementation really matter.
Immensely. The researchers flag variations in things like the underlying theories behind the rubric design, how self-efficacy and self-regulation were even measured in different studies, and just the sheer quality of how the rubrics were implemented in the classroom.
Right. All those differences between the original 14 studies likely contribute to that widespread in results we saw.
It's like knowing exercise is generally good, but the type of exercise, the intensity, the consistency, that all affects the outcome. And we're still figuring out the optimal rubric workout for learning.
Okay, so let's try and connect this back to you, the listener, trying to learn effectively.
Yeah.
What's the practical takeaway here?
Well, first off, the general trend is positive. Seeing a rubric is probably a good sign. It likely means clearer expectations, which can, on average, help you feel more confident.
That's the self-efficacy part.
Right. And also help you manage your approach to the task better.
The self-regulation.
Exactly. So generally, rubrics are a potentially valuable tool.
But the impact isn't guaranteed to be huge in every single case.
Correct. That variability is key. It reminds us they aren't a magic bullet. The specific rubric, how it's presented, how it's used, that can influence how much you personally benefit.
And the finding about education level, that's encouraging too, right? It suggests these benefits aren't just for, college students. They can potentially help younger learners too.
That broad applicability across K-16 is a pretty significant finding.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. Key takeaway number 1. Scoring rubrics generally seem to have a positive impact, moderate to large, on learner confidence, their self-efficacy.
And on their ability to manage their own learning, their self-regulation.
But takeaway number 2. There's a lot of variation study to study. The effect isn't always the same size.
Right. And surprisingly, things like education level feedback alongside the rubric or specific instruction on using it didn't consistently explain that variation in this analysis.
Which means, takeaway number 3, we still have questions about the best ways to actually design and use rubrics to maximize those benefits. The how matters, and it's complex.
Exactly. Differences in theory, measurement, and just plain old implementation qualities seem to play a big role.
So for you listening, this research suggests rubrics can be a real asset for your learning, clearing things up, boosting confidence, helping you take control.
Yeah, but it also hints that the quality and context of that rubric matter. Their effectiveness isn't automatic. It can vary.
Which leads us to maybe a final thought for you to chew on. Given that the specifics of how rubrics work best are still a bit fuzzy, what parts of a rubric do you find most helpful for your own learning? Is it having super clear criteria?
Or maybe the detailed descriptions of what good or excellent performance looks like.
Or is it something else entirely about how they're presented or used?
Yeah, something to think about next time you encounter one on your learning journey.
Yeah.
What makes a rubric really click for you?